What's up, guys? It's Messed Up Swede. Right now I'm checking out a video about Sweden. Why can't Sweden get gang violence under control? Let's see what they have to say. I think this is like some German news company or whatever that's posted this. I'm always curious about what like other countries or other people think about Sweden and what's going on. But yeah, let's see what they have to say, man. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the way to 2K subs. Let's go. And also, a lot of why Sweden can't get it under control is because Sweden is too soft. I'm not gonna lie.
Instead of shooting somebody in his leg, they shoot somebody in his head.
For me, this is nothing but terror.
People are now trying to get home earlier in the evening.
I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely the worst up in Stockholm, the capital right now. So I can't really, I don't have this type of view on it really, because it's not really happening around me, if you get what I mean. Of course, stuff has happened down where I live as well, but not to the same extent as in Stockholm. So
well, you could say that.
So for me, watching what happens in Stockholm is almost like when you see stuff happening in another country almost. Because I haven't even been there, man.
Sweden is in a national crisis.
I'm curious to see if they're gonna say what, like, if they have like a solution as well in this video, like what they think Sweden should do. That's interesting, man.
Umair Sarihan still finds it difficult to go to the cemetery.
Maybe I should put some subtitles on just for the...
Nearly 50 years ago, he left Turkey for Sweden thinking it was a peaceful country.
It was, though.
Today, he's standing at the grave of his son, Serdar, who
R.I.P.
was shot by gangsters this past March. Sarihan is still in disbelief. Written on a stone are the words, "We miss you so much."
My son was more than a son to me. He was my best friend and companion. He was everything to me. A hard-working person with principles.
The real estate agent was shot dead in front of his wife and children in his house near Stockholm.
Damn. Rest in peace, man.
Allegedly an act of retaliation. Serdar's son, Umair's grandson, is allegedly involved with a gang and is suspected of having shot at the family home of a rival gang member.
Oh, so the guy who got killed, his son was involved in gangs. They killed his dad. Damn, man.
Televizyon kanalı.
They broadcast a photo of my grandson on the TV program Wanted. 3 hours later, my son was dead.
His grandson's alleged involvement in gang violence.
I mean, yeah, it seems like he wants to blame that on the TV show. But I mean, partially they do have some blame in it, but I wouldn't say, like, if it's anyone's fault, it's the one who's involved in gangs. Because if he wasn't involved, it wouldn't happen, obviously.
Weighs heavily on Umair. He and his family have had no contact with his grandson for years. Have had no contact with his grandson for years.
We put in a lot of effort so he could get a job and live a normal life, but unfortunately, he chose this path.
Gang wars have been spreading fear and terror in Sweden for years. In 2022, they claimed 62 lives, more than ever before. In Stockholm alone, the Wall Street Journal calculated that the murder rate per capita is 30 times higher than in London.
Damn, that sounds crazy though. The murder per capita is 30 times higher than in London. And London, it's still a lot happening, it feels like. So yeah, that's crazy, man.
Conflicts primarily revolve around turf wars in the drug trade. Sometimes it's simply about defending so-called honour. Most of the perpetrators held...
It's definitely, most of the time, it's definitely about honor and pride. Like, ego, I would say even. Not honor, not pride, it's about ego. That's what I would say.
...from migrant communities. They shoot through apartment doors and at cars, throw hand grenades and plant bombs. An increasing number of innocent people are killed as a result. The government is on high alert.
Sverige har aldrig förr.
Sweden has never experienced anything like this. No country in Europe has experienced anything like this. I've asked the national police chief and the commander of the army to join me. We want to see how the army is helping the police to fight against criminal gangs.
There aren't any soldiers patrolling the streets of Stockholm yet. But for investigative journalist Diamant Salihu, the government's announcement shows just how powerful the criminal networks in Sweden have become.
Yeah, sure, they said the military is gonna get involved and all of that. But then after that, I heard what they're gonna use the military for is like transport. How does that make sense, man?
But there is
What's the point?
one major conflict at the moment within a network called the Foxtrot network that has been divided in two fractions because of debt, because of internal conflicts, and they are now fighting each other to the death. A big problem that Swedish authorities have when it comes to dealing with this situation that we have at the moment is that the leaders that control a lot of the drug market, they are operating from abroad.
The police in Gottsunda, a suburb of the central Swedish city of Uppsala, have deemed it to be a high-risk area. According to Swedish reports, gangs like to recruit new members here. Boredom, a lack of respect toward law enforcement, and low sentences all make this easier for gangs. The area is filled with social housing apartments built in the 1960s and 70s. These days, immigrants make up most of the population. A majority of the 10,000 households here are considered low income. "15-year-old Ahmed takes us on a tour of Gottsunda. He was born in Iraq and came to Sweden with his parents 10 years ago.
Just 10 years ago as well. Yeah. I mean, it can't even be better. It can barely be better to be in Sweden right now, man. At least if you're in these areas where everything's happening and you're around it all the time, like, I wouldn't feel safe.
People have so many prejudices against Gottsunda, but everyone who lives here is like family. We all get along well together.
After school, Ahmed hangs out on the streets with his friend Abed. Sometimes they go to one of Gottsunda's 2 youth clubs, which are open all day. Nobody wants to be filmed here, Ahmed says there are plenty of things to do for fun in the neighbourhood, but many kids his age still turn to crime.
Of course. Because that's not what it's about. It's about getting the money. It's about getting the clout. It's not about, oh, I got nothing to do, so I turn to crime. Like, that's not how it works. Like, that's what the politicians and that say, but I don't believe that, to be honest, man. I think almost the biggest part in it right now is probably social media, to be honest. Because everybody wants to be seen, everybody wants to be... It's become like cool to be the bad guy, if that makes sense.
Yes, I have friends who get into things like that. Yeah. But I always try to stay away from that stuff. There's always a risk of getting pulled into something like that. I try not to stay out too late at night, and I prefer going out with a friend.
Ahmed's precautions are justified. In August, a 13-year-old boy was shot on a bus in Gottsunda. He goes to Ahmed's school. It's not only the victims who are getting younger and younger, it's also the perpetrators.
And that's probably the reason why the victims are getting younger and younger, because the people who do it are younger as well. So let's say two 13-year-olds got beef about something, yeah, shoot the other guy.
Gang leaders prefer to recruit 14 to 15
R.I.P., man.
year-olds who are typically paid the equivalent of a few €100 for their first errands. Later, they might be ordered to commit murder, which pays much more. The increasingly younger ages of new recruits shows the full extent to which the state and society in Sweden are failing, says expert Diamant Salihu. He's also a child of immigrants from Kosovo.
In Sweden, if you commit a murder and if you're 16, you can get maximum 4 years in youth custody, where you can have access to an iPad.
Yep. That's what's causing the young ones to do all the killings, obviously.
And communicate with friends on the other side. So the risk is very low for the reward they can get, either money or quite often status.
Let's just be honest, it's a joke.
These 3 social workers in Gottsunda take to the streets to prevent minors from falling into the clutches of gangs. Every evening at 6 p.m, they head to the shopping centre and talk to security staff, but more importantly, to young people. Their message is simple. We're here for anyone who needs help. But sometimes the gangs are faster.
Oh yes, they are trying to recruit.
The gangs also have more things to give them, if that makes sense. Obviously, it comes with a price, but like they don't make money from talking to these guys. The gangs are gonna make them money. They might also end up dead, but I guess they think that's worth it.
The younger people, but what we do is like we're going in the middle schools, like year 4 and 5, where they're like 10, 11 years old, and we try to teach them about the warning signs and what can happen, and also what is against the law and what's lawful, and what kind of support can you get. So obviously we can't give them exactly what the recruiters can, but we do try to offer them jobs, meaningful free time, positive role models.
I'm not saying, by the way, that these guys aren't doing a good job, because it's good that there are people like this that try to help them. But I'm just saying, like, obviously the gangs are gonna be more attractive, if you want to say that, like when it comes to the money they can make and all that type of stuff
and stuff like that,
and unfortunately they mostly live for the day or for the hour and think, oh, maybe I can get some status, maybe I can get some fast money. They don't see how it will turn out in the long haul, and that's what we really try to talk with them about, you know.
That's good.
Ahmed and Abed are still out and about on the streets. Everything is quiet in Gotsunde. The police are never far away. Their friends.
These places, I think it's very good. Having these type of places where you can, if you're frustrated and that type of stuff, you can get your stuff out when it comes to these type of activities.
Friends meet at a boxing gym where self-defense exercises help relieve stress. Ahmed observes the goings-on, but his thoughts are focused on the rampant crime affecting his peers.
It's unnecessary and totally stressful. To constantly be on the lookout for police is no life at all. On the other hand, it's really easy to commit a crime, but you can be smarter than that.
This guy sounds like a good guy, I'm not gonna lie.
Om man vill vara smart, man kan bli smart.
I don't know if they said how old he is, but I think they said like 15 maybe. So yeah, I'm glad he's got that mindset already, even if he is in an area where it's easy to do crime.
According to a 2022 police report, only 1 in 4 fatal shootings get solved.
Yeah. Barely.
The police department in Gotsunde thinks the criticism of its work is unjustified because their work is constrained by the law.
Yeah, of course it is. But...
There's a law from 1942 that prohibits us from searching homes after 9 p.m. unless there are exceptional circumstances.
What the hell?
Criminals don't get up until 9 p.m. these days. What worries us now is that so many innocent people are becoming victims of these conflicts, even though they have nothing to do with them.
Some are pinning their hopes on former criminals like Peter Svensson. Not only is he a reformed gang member, he also served 4 years in prison.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more people like this, to be honest. And especially in these areas, like where it's a lot of immigrants, and I think they need someone like them, or that's actually been where they are, to tell them that it's not worth it. But I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't seem like we have a lot of those people over here, man.
Burglary, drugs, and violent crimes. That was all part of it.
Today he runs a program for criminals who want to get out. The brutality of today's generation frightens him.
These days, it's about murdering people. It's gone to the extreme. In the past, they might have...
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Because I don't think the guys, like the young people today, can fully relate to people. Or I mean the other way around. I don't think the guys that were criminal, like say 10 years ago, they can't really relate to what's going on today, because there used to be some kind of code or some kind of honor, at least, in like don't kill women, don't kill children, don't kill innocent people, don't rob like elderly people, that type of stuff. Nowadays everything is just gone. People just do whatever as long as it makes them money, man. Something that's become very common, I think, over here as well, is people scamming old people. Like going into their homes and saying they're the police and they need to take their jewelry or stuff like that, which that's some fucking, in lack of a better word, that's a waste man thing, man. Those people are bums, literally, man.
Have injured their...
I don't care how much money you got. If you make it from scamming elderly people, you're a bum.
Opponent with a knife or shot them in the legs. the level of violence continues to rise. At the same time, we have parallel societies in Sweden where a gang controls everything. They decide when you can leave the house, stop cars and tell everyone to keep quiet.
For the right-wing populist party, the Sweden Democrats, now the second strongest party in the country, it's clear who's responsible for the creation of parallel societies and violence: migrants, and Muslims in particular.
It's not migrants and it's not Muslims, like, that's just, yeah, man. I mean, of course, a lot of the problems come from the big migration or immigration, but it's because of how Sweden and the government and everything handle the migrants as well. I'm gonna say it's a bit of both, and I don't know why they put Muslims in here. Like, if you're a believing Muslim, like, you won't do this stuff.
This video, produced by the party, claims that migration to Sweden has only led to high costs and more crime. They claim that Sweden has only led to high costs and more crime. They claim that Swedish families are forced to move to other cities to escape the violence. Ardalan Shekarabi is a former minister for the Social Democrats and a child of Iranian immigrants, and he disagrees.
But we cannot stop this development without making a lot of investments in crime prevention and a lot of investments in breaking the segregation in the Swedish society and creating a much more inclusive society where young people have a good chance to enter labor market and find a positive future for themselves.
Ahmed and his friend Abed don't see a future for themselves with the gangs of Gottsunda. Instead, a new recording studio in the youth centre has piqued their interest.
This is what I like to see, man.
Children and the young people from the district have already produced a hit song titled "We Are Gottsunda."
That's what we should focus on.
Definitely.
That everyone is doing well, that everyone feels safe and at home.
For many years, Ömer Sarıhan also felt at home in Sweden. But since the violent death of his son, his feelings have changed. And he says there are many to blame.
Yeah, that's understandable.
First of all, it's the fault of the drug lords who ordered the murder and the criminals who carried it out. The third person at fault is my grandson, who got us into this situation in the first place. And finally, the authorities, who have been watching this go on for so long, when they should be protecting their citizens.
I wouldn't say it's the authorities, though, because the authorities are doing what they can with the laws we have. I would say it's the government that's making the laws that's not doing their job. They just sit there, man. They just, nah, man.
Ömer Sarıhan is not the only person who wants to feel safe again in Sweden.
Yeah, no, that's probably the whole of Sweden, to be honest. But it's definitely not getting better. That's one thing that's for sure. It's probably gonna if it doesn't stay like this, it's at least gonna be like this for probably 10-15 years before we see some change or something. But yeah, man, let me know what you think of this one in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'm out. Peace.